Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm the founder of Motomake. We're an online custom fit pattern tool, and I'm joined with Marina today of Frocks and Frolics. Marina, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
So I saw in your bio that you worked as a tailor and a teacher, and now you're also offering your patterns online via Etsy and your own store. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and what brought you to today?
Yes, I'm very happy to do that. I've actually studied tailoring from 1989, so this is a long, long time ago, to 1992. So I was a tailor's apprentice first. And like a lot of other people, it was my first choice of profession. I've never sewn as a child. I never had a grandma that sewed. In fact, I was taught in school I was so horrible at sewing, I should never, ever go into that. So
that's interesting.
But it just so happened that when you can't get anything else, were no jobs or apprenticeships out there, there was a tailoring one. So I went for it, and that's really the start of it. So it was by accident.
And that's really interesting. So you went to school for, did you go to school for pattern design or other things, or
no, no, not at all. I think my patterns are so very, very different because they're approached by a totally different angle. It's
right.
A tailoring angle. It's not, hey, how I can draw it in a digital program, I sell it, I make lots of money. It's exactly the opposite. I've worked in this industry, and I've had stuff in Selfridges, in Harrods. I worked for Madame Tussauds, all sorts. So Madame Tussauds actually collaborated with another designer. So I worked for a lot of very, very high profile people, and they usually had their own pattern designer, or there were pattern designers. And I was working there as a seamstress, as a sample designer, and producing also entire collections. And the patterns we used to get, not on all of them, I have to say, but some of them were so bad from the professionals that I had to put them right. So when you put things right for 20 years, you draw patterns in school as well. This is just recently, so the last 10 years, and I've stopped that now and just doing the patterns. And you have to constantly draw things with your students. Then, yeah, you learn a lot about the actual process there. And of course, as a tailor, and I've made bridal gowns, and I have a really, really big background, and if I talked about it, it'd be hours, right? So if you can make something fit beautifully, then that is the first step to actually becoming a pattern designer. I think if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be a designer of patterns or sell them or anything like it. I think that is a totally different angle. So when I do a pattern, I actually, on one of them, I took 6 months.
Wow.
Every size was individually crafted to the measurements that I had collected from other people that said, okay, this is the height, that's the torso, that's the waist. And I compared that to the standardized charts, ASTM, and then I came up with my own, and that's the Vivian, the 6-month project with 20 sizes in it. So you can find something for every child, any fit. And that you don't get from drawing a pattern and grading it.
Right.
That's not what I do. I draw them all individually, every single size.
So I want to go back for a second to that first job that you got. So you came out of school, you didn't have a degree in anything, you didn't really have any experience. How did you get that first job as a tailor? How did you convince them to hire you and bring you on?
You mean after my apprenticeship and working for 3 years, 8 hours a day as a tailor's apprentice?
I see. Maybe I missed that part.
What I did. 3 years of it. So, and then
you were qualified then when you got that first job. You had experience.
It wasn't actually, because I never actually worked anything other than freelance. I'm a free spirit. I have worked as a teacher, obviously employed by the government, but when I left that apprenticeship, I was offered a job, but I had different things in mind. I wanted to become a school teacher, so I went to England. I'm German by nationality. I went to England and I studied education to become a textiles teacher.
I see.
And then didn't find that anyone would employ me because I wasn't English. So they said, "Oh, you can be a German teacher, not a textiles teacher." So I started my own business with a study colleague, and we were selling silk lingerie to shops.
Wow,
That was the first time I drew a pattern. Yes.
That's a great story. And so now bring me up to today. So you sort of had this broad career where, you know, you worked as a tailor, and then you worked as a teacher, and you were teaching in LA. Is that correct? When you came to the US?
No. I've only moved recently to Los Angeles. I've been living in the UK for most of my life, and I was a teacher at a secondary school and taught up to 18. Product design, it's called. It's sort of designing something, making a pattern, and then marketing it, and all that. And you teach that to kids. That's what I did for a long time as well. But the main chunk of my life, I've actually produced collections. I've worked with, you know, English eccentrics, Carol Waller, you know, Annette Röstel, a German designer, absolutely fantastic.
Gotcha.
So I've just worked in the industry, had my own bridal shop as well, sold bridal gowns. There isn't very much I haven't done.
Yeah, you've had a very broad experience. And so that's what I want to understand is, you know, with all that experience, how did you get to the point where you are today, where you said, oh, you know what, I'm going to sell patterns online. I'll start my own website. I'll start an Etsy shop, and I'll, you know, put this stuff online and go that route. What sort of led you to where you are today?
That is, again, it was like an accidental story, totally unplanned. Obviously, being my generation, I wasn't that technologically versed or anything. I had no idea PDFs could be used for patterns or anything. What happened was I left my school that I'd been in for many, many years because I was a bit tired of teaching kids to be successful and to have a marketing campaign and all that. And I thought, well, I'd do it myself. So I sold on Amazon flower girl dresses, and I decided that I needed a website as well.
Right.
And so I had an expert come to my home and talk to me about this. And he was very, very nice. And he said, you know, Marina, you need to go on YouTube. And I said, I'm not going on YouTube. I'm not showing my face. You're crazy. He said, no, you need to go on YouTube. You show people how you make something. And then that will draw people to your shop on Amazon. And believe me, this is what you need to do. And I said, okay. So I made my first YouTube video. I was really nervous. I was like sitting there in front of the fireplace going, hello. It was quite funny. I cringe now at them, really. But I did the first video, and that got lots of views. And I continue to make videos. I now have way over 300.
Yeah.
And that kind of took over. And I was actually then discovering that there was this thing called PDF patterns, that people were selling these. This is like 5 years ago. I thought, well, I have made patterns for so many years. I'm going to sell some jersey dresses for ladies, like really cool stuff that fits really well. Put that up, didn't sell. So my advisor said, sell the flower girl dress pattern for little girls. Not only can they buy it from you, but they could make it themselves. Right. I thought, well, that's really shooting me in the foot, isn't it? I'm not doing that. So these guys from Blue Box, actually, that's an internet company that develop websites. They are very, very good. And they said, no, you need to do this. So anyway, I follow what people tell me to do sometimes, not very often, but I listen. I made the flower girl pattern, and it started selling. It was hand drawn and then digitized. I mean, it's still now, it's one of my cheaper patterns, because although it's a great pattern, and I've been selling flower girl dresses for like 20 years really, so yeah, it's good. But it's not very nicely drawn, so that one is quite cheap. But then I realized that people are willing to sew for their kids, but not for themselves because they're worried what it might look like. I think that's changing, but
Yeah,
5 years ago, it was like a no-go. It just didn't work.
that's interesting.
So that's when I then started to design for kids, which is not my comfort zone. I'm
Right.
a dressmaker for ladies, or a tailor actually, also for men's. So
Yeah.
kids have different measurements. So it was really, really difficult actually for me to get into that, and to find what the differences were, what the
Right.
size jumps were. Anyway, and then that just spiraled and rolled, and now I've got like, I think 12 million views on YouTube.
Yeah.
For
Well,
sewing, it's quite good.
I was going to tell
It's
you.
quite good.
So this morning I was going through your YouTube channel and I was looking at them, and I watched a couple of your videos to completion, and I think I learned some things. Like, I'm
Did
going to tell
you?
you, you're really
Good.
good. I will say this. I think with your background and your skills, and I love that you didn't come from, you know, a strict pattern making background,
No.
but your videos really do. I would say watching you work and how you explain things, I would say is the best that I've seen. And I've probably interviewed
Oh,
2 dozen
yay.
pattern makers.
Don't worry.
At this point. So
Don't worry.
I was really
Sorry, but
impressed.
it's
And you know, having done 300, it really shows, right? Like, you know what you're doing and you get your
yeah.
points across very well. And I mean, absolutely, people can learn by watching you. Which brings me to another question. You know, I know when you're producing a pattern, you have testers, and I think I read in your profile previously that you would take your patterns to your classes and have people
Yeah.
sew them there, and you can kind of
Yeah.
get instant feedback. Are
That's
you
right.
still doing that, or have you switched how you do your testing? Is it all online now? Do you know, give out free samples online and collect feedback, or how do you do that? How do you do that testing aspect?
Yeah, the testing is has changed totally. I used to do what most of pattern designers do, which is like have a tester call and they get the pattern and they sew it and all that, which I've stopped now. I no longer do that because it's just not reliable at all. I actually test every size myself now. And
Gotcha.
I might have some selected few that sew very well, where I know if they give me some feedback on the fit of the garment on that child, then that would be beneficial. But
Right.
basically, my main tester is my little model Magdalena. Lives in Virginia and is always photographed by her mum, Ella Berwick-Brown. She's wonderful, wonderful. She's a good friend. And I make stuff for this little girl who's pretty much standard. She's on the skinny side. And I make it to fit her. And when I make my first one, and I sort of, you know, think, yeah, that'll fit, I send it to her. She puts it on, and then I see whether I'm on the right track.
Gotcha.
And then I move on to the next size and the next size. So it's very, very different to what other people do, I think, where they just grade it and they just go, which is what I think you're going to offer. So,
Oh, no, we can get into our tool later, but it actually takes your profile, right, where you input measurements, and then it'll redraw the pattern to your measurements.
Oh, that's good. So that's for individuals, really.
Right, exactly.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I could be on board with that. That's quite nice. Can I just say something else there?
Absolutely.
Which I think for pattern maker, most of people that go into pattern making, they think they have to have this multi-size pattern approach, which I think is absolutely horrendous.
Right.
It's not a person in my courses that said, oh, I love that border pattern, had so many lines, I just got so excited. And then, you know, you have got like, especially when you do courses, you've got like no room to put these huge patterns. You cut the one size out and that's
Right.
it. Throw it away. Or even worse, and this I would never do, is like trace them.
Right.
People are tracing them. I'm sorry, I'm by nature very lazy. I'm not one of these natural sewing people that love spending time on stuff. If it ain't working fast, I'm not going to do it. So with the courses, that's how I started with my special thing, that you have one file per size. So people could say, okay, I would go into the course and say, well, who needs a size 3, 4, 5, how many, I'd go off, print them off, and they could all sit there, drink coffee, and cut them out where they were sitting in a small space, and you can do it anywhere in front of the TV or whatever. You just need tiny amounts of space to put these together. And I think that's so much better. And I don't know why no one other than me is doing it. I really don't. Because
no, I totally agree with you. And certainly for a beginner who's new to sewing and working with patterns, to see all those different lines and then try and figure it out. Yeah, I think it's so much simpler to have the one that fits you.
It is. It's so horrible.
What are some of the biggest challenges right now with what you're doing, with what you're facing? What are the hard problems that you work on sort of week to week and day to day?
I think the biggest challenge for someone, this is age related, is social marketing.
Right.
I have a great product. And I know that other people, I'm in this group, actually, I don't, PDF designers only on Facebook, so people could join that, and we all talk to each other, and we're not all enemies like people would imagine we are. We'll actually talk to each other and help each other out. And one of the things that people say is, oh, I advertise in the PDF group, and my last launch, I sold 3 patterns. And they're really disheartened, because going into certain groups with 8,000 or 10,000 members, it's a numbers game, will not work. And for me, that was a really hard lesson to learn, that you have to go out, that you have to, I've already started on Instagram 5 years later. So for me, that's the biggest challenge, the absolute hugest challenge. And thankfully, I've got people that take me by the hand, that have come on my videos, or they have met me through Facebook, and they say, how on earth are you not one of the big 4? How is it possible you are, not up there when your stuff is like tons better? And they say, I've made the pattern, I'm not slandering anybody, but I've made their patterns, they don't fit well, yours do, why? And then one lady, her name's Melissa, she comes back to me and she says, you need to do this, you need to, she provided me with Instagram hashtags. So that's that. And then my friend Ella, who I also met, who was first off a customer that did my stuff, who said, well, I'd be disappointed if your patterns are very good, your instructions are not. So this is years ago. And I've had this input, and I think the challenge is for every designer is to listen to these people, because they actually love you and what you do, and they want you to get better. And a lot of people get on the defensive. So what I did when I heard, this is like 2.5 years ago, I think, your patterns, your instructions are terrible. That's so sad. Now, what I did was not like wallow. I got a bit upset for a minute. Then I asked people on Facebook groups, my customers, I said, do you agree with that? And you know what the answer was? They said, we stick with you because we love your patterns, but your instructions aren't very good. Your videos are, but your instructions ain't. Gotcha. So, and what I did then is I went over these. And when you look at them now, as compared to the ones I've done 3 years ago, you wouldn't even think it's the same person.
Right.
And that has ticked over. And listening to other people tell you where you're bad, and not saying, oh, no, I must be wonderful because I'm Marina, I'm wonderful at everything, obviously. So, and changing that has then brought the success that I now have. Now it is a job. Now it is earning me the same money that I used to earn as a teacher. But it's taken 5, almost 6 years.
Yeah. To
get to that point where you say, oh, I scroll through my messages, I actually have to do this. It is not the top 3, so people that start in this business don't get disheartened, but also know that it will take a long time, and that marketing, sadly, is more important than your product in this. So I'm kind of hoping people will kind of come around to the fact that you just don't just need a pretty picture, but also a good fitting garment, and they'll frock that with me.
It's, in my last post, I wrote about, the importance of marketing. And I compare it to, if a tree falls in the middle of the forest and no one's around to hear it, did it make a sound? It's the same thing with products. You could have the greatest product in the world, but if nobody knows about you, if you're not on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, if you're not, communicating what you're doing to other people and they never hear about you, you might as well not be doing anything.
Not doing it. That's right.
And it's a huge amount of time. It's a huge investment, but it's probably 50% of what a small business owner has to do. And it's funny that you say that, because I hear it almost every time I ask that question.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, it's like so sad, because I don't actually enjoy that part as much. So.
And one of the things that I tell people is, you probably should, regardless of whether you're doing it or somebody else is doing it, spend 20% of your time, no less, thinking about marketing. But there's such great online tools today, from Freelance and Fiverr and Odesk, or I think it's Upwork now, where you can hire people remotely, and you can hire them pretty cheaply and just have them do a lot of that grunt work, marketing work for you. If you don't enjoy it, and you're at a point where you have a little bit of money where you can hire someone else to do it, I highly encourage people to take that route.
Yeah,
it'll free you up to focus on what you like and your core business. Let me ask you one last question.
Okay.
Where do you want to be, say, 5 years from now? What are your sort of big goals that you're working towards and working on?
I would like my website, my actual frocksandfrolics.com, to be a hub and a community for seamstresses, not only as a vehicle for me to become super rich, which would be nice, but actually something that will promote other people. One thing I have not done, and that lots of other people do, you go on any website, there's advertising galore.
Right.
Yeah. You don't see advertising on Rolls-Royce, on Mercedes-Benz for other companies, do you? No. So I've never done that. But what I do is I would like to work with bloggers. I would like to actually integrate them on my website. I'd like to have an area where people that are really good but maybe small will also be featured. Not by me making money from that or being paid in any way, but just featuring them and giving them an outlet, because oftentimes people that are very talented and creative like me go under, because they just haven't got the vehicle to be seen, and they're just not marketing and business people, Right. So that's where I see this going. I see it going in terms of having ladies wear as well, being very, very much broader than I am now, adding to it. But then also giving people that opportunity to find like the best tools to make something, the best this, that, and the other. So I could work with a blogger that works on that, and they could be integrated into my website, so that you always see like, this is the best deal out there. You can go to that website and buy that fabric now, that one. That sort of thing, even if it's a really small site. So it's not a numbers game for people out on there, but it's how good are you? And how relevant is what you do. So that's something I would really like to do. I would like to have the sewing school increased hugely.
Are you on, have you looked at Craftsy for that?
I'm in there. Again, I'm not a fan. Everyone there makes, it's a buck game for them. It is for me too, to an extent. But not to the extent that their website only lives from selling things to other people, right?
Right.
And in huge amounts, so that they can, and what some parts of what they do is good. I am on Craftsy, but I think it's sell. It's like these lessons that they sell. You could get that from me for free. I do have some on there that I think are very good. There's some pattern cutting lessons on there that are absolutely excellent, and I can't remember the name now because I got one myself, and I thought, no, that was worth the money.
Yeah.
Because it was on collars, and at the time I actually had to teach that lesson, and I thought, I cannot explain this. It was very, very helpful. Thank you, Crafty. But most of the time, I think it's you don't need to buy that anymore when you can get it for free. Come to me. So yeah, just more and better, and you know, do this for another 10 years or 5 years, and then it's for me retirement, really. So I can't really say I will go much further than that.
Gotcha.
Well,
no, I think,
I don't think beyond that, really.
It's always great, you know, in the last few years, we've seen the rise of what's called B Corps, right, which are corporations where part of their goal is to help the others, help the community, or help the environment, or help people. And it sounds like you sort of have that same motivation, right? It's not just, I want to grow the business, I like to offer 100 more patterns or reach this income level. I would like to help other people like myself, and I think that's great. I think that's really motivational and hugely rewarding.
It is. I'm a bit of a, you know, my original thing that I wanted to do was to become a nurse, and I did nursing training. Couldn't carry on. I've got dermatitis. Long story short, I couldn't, you know, be allergic all the time, so I couldn't do that. But my plan was to be a nurse, go out there, work somewhere in Africa, you know, help people, spread the gospel. That was my original idea of the nurse/missionary thing that I wanted to do, from which I am so far removed now you can't even notice that anymore. But I think I am one of those people that doesn't look at the bottom line. Sometimes not close enough, I think. Right. But it's okay. People get it. People that know me, that come to the Facebook group, know after a while it's not just about selling stuff. I'm actually 24/7 helping out and answering emails, and they're always surprised. They say, oh, that was a quick answer. I didn't expect that, you know. And I think that's what I like. I like the community. I like the contact with people.
Right.
It's great. Yeah. I love my job.
Well, that's awesome. That's what it's all about. Marina, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, and best of luck to you in the future.
Thank you.